Today is your coming out party.
At least you know what to wear.
I've turned off the water hoses in your room, David. There's only the door left.
Elijah.
It's metal. But you can't get through it because people's bones break against metal. And you're nothing special. A lot of people are going to die, Overseer, if you don't get through that door.
It's been almost 20 years, obviously, since Unbreakable. I guess the obvious question is, at what point did you decide or realise that you had a trilogy on your hands? I mean, was it always designed as that in the first place, or did that idea come later?
Yeah, it was actually always meant to be 3, and for many reasons. One of them was that the reception to Unbreakable, especially in the US, was kind of wonky, and I kind of felt, hurt and just wanted to go and do other things, and I kind of put it aside, the whole thing, and did other thrillers, and then I kind of left thrillers for a while, and then when I came back to doing contained thrillers, I was like, maybe I should do Split, which was the second one in my thought process, the story of Kevin Wendell Crumb and his personalities.
Yeah, I read somewhere that that character was initially going to be an Unbreakable, but you pulled it out from the script. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, all of these were supposed to be one story, but it just was so unwieldy.
Right.
And it just didn't work together, because once, a set of girls gets abducted, like in Split, it's hard to do the character piece that I wanted to do with David Dunn and his wife and his son and his life.
Yeah. So with it being such a long gap between the first film and the third, I mean, how much did your idea for the story as a whole kind of change over that time?
Not much, but the tone changed. So I really embraced a kind of wink to the movie, a kind of humor to the movie, a kind of inappropriate humor. I became more comfortable with that now than I was when I was in my 20s. For whatever reason, I had a tough time calibrating humor in my movies, so they would get jettisoned as I was shooting it or editing it because I couldn't get the tone right of the humor. And so Unbreakable's script is funnier than the movie. Right. and then so I got more comfortable with humor as I grew up.
I mean, you talked about the reaction to Unbreakable when it first came out. Do you think maybe you were kind of a victim of your own success with Sixth Sense having been such a big hit, that expectations were maybe a little higher than they would normally have been?
No, I think it's more complicated than that. It's that the primary thing is I made a movie about comic books before anybody wanted to make a movie about comic books. So the studio felt at that time that to even mention the word comic books or superheroes was a tragic mistake, that was our least commercial element of our movie. Don't mention it, don't tell anybody that's what it is. And so we were running from what it was. Ironically, that's not the case, right? So I think ultimately it's a lesson in, if you're making original movies, really embrace what you're making and support it. Whatever the outcome, that's the appropriate outcome. Don't try to be something else or like the previous movie. That's not good.
Everything extraordinary can be explained away, and yet it is true. I think deep down you know this. Everything we will see and do will have a basis in science, but it will have limits. This is the real world, not a cartoon. And yet some of us don't die from bullets. Some of us can still bend steel. That is not a fantasy.
So when it came to putting the cast together for this, I mean, how easy was that to do? Because obviously you need James McAvoy, you need Bruce Willis, you need Sam Jackson to make it work. But there's some other kind of more slightly peripheral characters. I mean, Spencer Treat Clark, for example, was just a kid in Unbreakable. And you couldn't have known at the time that he was going to grow into he's now a 31-year-old man that could still pass for a college-age kid. So it still kind of works. I mean, did you need to get some of those other parts nailed down before you could kind of finalize the script? I mean, would you have thought about recasting or?
Well, luckily everyone said yes, and everyone was available, and everyone was still an actor from the people that I needed. It was a tricky situation because I'd never written a script that I had to get these actors. I had to have Sam say yes, and Bruce say yes, and James say yes, and everyone needed to say yes for me to make this movie. So it was vulnerable. Normally I write a screenplay, and if I'm writing it for XYZ actor and that person isn't available, I'll ask the next person and we'll find the right fit. And it usually works out just the way it's supposed to. But this time it was very different. It was nerve-wracking and very lucky that everybody did it. The real funny thing is that the boy that I directed in Unbreakable, he was 11, and now when I directed him, he was 30. He's older than I was when I directed him in Unbreakable.
So that's it for this trilogy. I mean, do you think there's more scope for movies inside that same universe? Because there are elements, especially in this, you get a glimpse at this kind of shadowy organisation that you don't really see much of. I mean, and there's kind of that point where they're moving to a different city. I mean, are there any plans for more movies in this universe, or do you want to move on to something completely different?
Well, I mean, there's, the idea is that the audience finishes the story as opposed to me continuing to tell the same story over and over and over with the same characters. I totally get that feeling of comfort from being with characters that you know, and it's just not where I live. I want to write new characters. I mean, I essentially, that's what I do. I make up characters, and I look to Stan Lee and other great authors like Agatha Christie and things like that. I want to tell new stories.
I've been waiting for the world to see that we exist. May I meet the beast? I hope for your sake that he likes you. That sounds like the bad guys teaming up. A lot of people are going to die. Don't do this. Are you ready? What do we call you, sir? First name, Mr. Last name, Glass.